ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast. Today we're at we're at a different ambiance and different aesthetics, as you can see. Today we're at Runway 106 on John and Richmond.
It actually is Runway 06. You had it right the first time.
Oh, I had to correct the first time.
Yeah.
We were just talking.
Runways are always two digits.
Okay, great. So we're on Runway 06 on Richmond and John, and today we want to welcome. We had this guest previously to unfortunate events. Our podcast wasn't able to air it out, but we have Sanjay Singhal here today. Founder of Audiobooks that people don't know. He sold his company in 06, which we will dive into more. But yeah, Sanjay as well. Welcome yourself to the audience that people might not be familiar with you. So, give the people your little story about who you are, man. A small little snippet.
Just like freestyle.
Yeah,
like
just freestyle.
What my story is. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
No, thank you.
So I had this audiobooks company. I've always been a tech guy, Fortune 500 business guy, and I sold my company back in 2016, audiobooks.com. Sitting on a big pile of cash and didn't know what I wanted to do with myself after that, and decided to open a restaurant right in the middle of COVID.
And here we are today.
It was here we are today. So we're gonna be open for brunch later. You'll have to try the food. Actually.
Okay, definitely. We'll sit back for the food after too. No. It's crazy to think about the ups and downs in life. I was telling Mook, I'm like, man, I feel so stagnant in life. I'm 30. I was telling him, I'm like, why do we have this weird pressure that we put out on ourselves at such a young age? We're like, man, I haven't made it in life. I haven't made hundreds and thousands and millions. I haven't made much of my life. But then I bring myself to the ground, look at other people around us, and realize I'm like, I have a full life ahead of me. And you're a live example of that. Selling audiobooks at what age was that at?
Would have been 48.
Yeah, 48.
48.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing. So when I was 31, so are you 30 now?
Yeah, I'm 30 now. Yeah.
Okay, so when I was 31, I had just gotten divorced and was bankrupt and living in my parents' basement. Okay, my life, and I had a daughter. She was 3 years old at the time.
Yeah.
But that was the oldest I have ever felt, was at 31. I thought my life was over.
Yeah.
And then look what happened next, right? I mean, there was 3 new companies in my future, 3 different careers, and I'm coming up to 60 now. And I still think of myself as having 30 or 40 good years left, right?
Yeah.
Like old is a whole different meaning nowadays. Right?
I know, and that's the crazy part. I feel like, I don't know what it is nowadays. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's due to social media. I think because it's portraying this lavish side of lifestyle, it's making people think that where they are currently, it's like they're in a race, but by 30, I have to get rich. If you don't get rich by 30 or 40s, you haven't made it in life. But that's not the truth of reality. Reality is, I tell people, I'm like, until 30s and 40s, it's like you're learning life experiences. Like businesses, as you said, I feel like it generally gets easier from what I have seen, given the people around us that are older and successful. They're like, Amrit, when it gets to 50s and 60s, I feel like that's when I feel like, wow, I'm succeeding in life. This is what life's meant to be. But nowadays, it's like we put this unrealistic expectation on ourselves to an extent where, having a chip on your shoulder is good. But it kind of caves into a lot of other things too. Relationships, how you view yourself. And it kind of ties into the mental health aspect as well and the world that we live in today. Do you feel like nowadays, having that, do you feel like the people that you meet, especially at a young age, given, you have this beautiful restaurant here, you meet a lot of people, do you feel like they have unrealistic expectation of what success is?
For sure. I mean, I had a business partner once who his whole thing was he wanted to get rich by the time he was 40. Okay. Yeah. So, but the thing is, you start making money in your 40s. That's when you actually figure out what your expertise is, what you're good at, and you're able to charge a lot for a small number of hours. But by the time he was 40, he wanted to be rich and living in the Mediterranean somewhere, having a villa somewhere. And so I met him I was 20 years older than him. I had already made my money, and I wanted to help him make money. But the guy was in such a hurry; he just wanted to keep cutting corners, and ended up exploding and on the verge of bankruptcy now. Like we're like,
Wow.
so
That's
because he wasn't willing to just be patient, put in the time, and the results will come. Here's the thing: why not? Instead of trying to make money and be happy with money, just be happy now.
No.
It's all comes from the inside,
Internal, yeah.
right? Surround yourself with good people. Like if you like the people that you're with, and you're making progress, what else do you actually need, right?
Yeah, but again, nowadays I feel like that internal happiness is not good enough for people, and I genuinely mean that, because now, to a certain extent, it's like there's constantly like a level that we're chasing that doesn't exist in real life. It's like we have this, like, I don't know what it is nowadays. It's like to a point where like what we have in front of us, if I were to look at it, I'd be like, wow, I have everything. I got people around me that, as you said, that have meaningful relationships, but yet I'm still empty inside, you know? And the one thing that you kind of touched upon is like risk and reward. I want to speak, and in our community a little bit, this is something that we don't understand enough. Now, what I mean by that is, so obviously I'm speaking from personal experience. I don't know, maybe other people can relate to it. When it comes to taking risk in South Asian communities, it is very hard for our parents to convince to take that leap. It's so hard. It's like, as you said, they expect to make that 100,000, but then they're like, they don't want to lose that 20,000 in the process.
Oh yeah. Oh no, let me tell you about that. So when I so I had a series of business ups and downs and my own mental health challenges that I kind of got control over in my 30s, right? But there was a point when I was recovering from bankruptcy. I was working for Cisco as a sales guy. I was making $250,000 a year as a sales guy. I sold a ton of equipment for telecom systems. And I called up my dad and said, Dad, a guy's approached me to help him start a business, a small business, and I get an equity share in it. I want to quit my $250,000 a year job to take this $60,000 a year job, right? But with equity and some upside. And my dad was like, you're going to do it no matter what I say, aren't you? Right? But he was so unhappy, and my mom was his thing was, don't tell your mom, right? And so,
Keep it a
but
little,
but you're right, because they're not going to be supportive. And I after that, I got lucky. You know, that company did well. My next company did really well. The equity path really worked for me, but my parents were not happy about it. And in our community, parents are not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, and then another thing, you kind of let's peel back the layers, like to your life, like, and being bankrupt and divorced at age 30. That's when you feel like, oh wow, he has everything for it. He should have a kid and a happy life, picket fence, a good life. Like that's where you feel like that's the expectation that we have, especially in this South Asian community. By 30s, you should be married, you should have kids, and be happy.
Can I tell you a story then about that? So when I was 28, I had moved to San Diego. I was married. My daughter was born. And I had a house in the San Diego suburbs. I was making, over $100,000 a year at a young age, working for Qualcomm, which is an up-and-coming telecom company. I had a BMW and an Infiniti in the driveway, and I was so depressed. I cannot tell you, that was the least happy I've ever been.
Wow.
Because I've been working towards these goals that my parents and society had put in front of me, right? Saying, if once you achieve all of these things, then you're going to be happy. I got them all, and I just felt so damn empty inside. I hadn't actually been doing what I wanted to do for myself all along, right? So you got to be careful to figure out what you want, not what your parents tell you.
What's just finding inner happiness? Because even just trying to pursue success, there's this whole thing where you should sacrifice your 20s, and then that way you can you kind of get a better, ahead of life. So then primarily you're focused on building yourself. I have a really bad problem with this too. Is maybe that's why I don't have much of a social life. And I have a tough time. Even Amber knows that well enough, because I put so much stress on trying to build and get to the point. Because I'm hey, I'll sacrifice the fun time to get to where I want to be, because the fun time will always be there, right? So what I want to ask is just of course there's not really a right time. This is what I've noticed, is there's never a right time for anything. But then how do you, I don't really use the word of balance, but then how do you really enjoy the moment even though you're going through the tough times then?
So let's talk about people here for a second, right? That all of the success any of us will achieve in life, have achieved in life, is through our relationships with other people, right? That all of the breaks that are given to you, mentors, people giving you a hand up, handing you a contract because they know you. So I would say if you realize that relationships are going to be your life and your business, then just enjoy those and focus on them the whole time, right? One of the reasons I quit that high-paying sales job, because I had to pretend to like people that I didn't like, right? And I just couldn't. It was killing me on the inside. And I had, oh my God, an expense account. I could take clients to strip clubs and pay for it with company money, right? Like, talk about a dream job, right? Restaurants. I was going to the U.S. Open, tennis, golf, taking clients out. It was like, it felt like a dream, but I had to work with people I didn't like. And so once I became more genuine about it, it's like, now I'm going to work with the people that I actually want to work with. Then every day becomes happy, right? Every day becomes nice. It doesn't matter if I'm achieving some kind of goal. I'm having a good time. Okay, can I tell you a story about So the oldest I ever felt was at 30.
30,
right? Right? The most financially stressed I've ever been, was 3 years ago. Okay, just end of COVID times. I had made a lot of money. I can throw around numbers. Right? So I sold my company for $56 million back in 2016.
Insane.
And that wasn't the only business that I had. Right? And also my parents, by the way, of course, my parents like, you can't tell people how much money you have. It's like, well, first of all, that's not how much money I have, because it goes in a lot of different directions, right? But why not tell people? Like, you should work with real numbers, not the Instagram inflated numbers. Work with the real numbers. What happened? So then I started a charity. I gave away a bunch of money. I made some really bad business decisions. I got into cannabis, opened up restaurants. This is not a way to make money, right? I lost $20 million over the course of from November 2021. All of a sudden, everything came crashing down. Now, I still had a shit ton of money, okay? But the fact that I had lost 20 million put me into this frame of mind, like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go get a job. I'm gonna have to, like, I worked all this way up, and it was this palpitations, like stress, talking to my therapist saying I feel like a steel wire that's gonna snap and everything's gonna come crashing down. I had more money than I ever imagined I would have. But the trajectory looked really, really bad. And I got over it through meditation and journaling and my therapist. My financial situation didn't change at all. But it took a year for me to realize, dude, chill out. It's all gonna be fine. Even if I lose it all, I lost it all when I was 30. I made it back. I can make it back again. Right? And finally got that peace. And now, I have this restaurant. It loses, oh my God, great gobs of money. But I feel like, we're going to figure it out, and I'm having fun. The most important part is I'm working with people I love. Right? And so every day becomes a pleasure. Right?
But like, how do you balance that though? Like, when you walk in a boardroom, you're that guy that like Sanjay is here. But then when you go to sleep with your own thoughts at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., that's only you that is sitting there. They don't know what's going on in those talks, and you're a big advocate for, mental health, understanding like it's an issue, within a society. I wouldn't even say South Asian community, because we do say like in South Asian community, mental health is an issue. I feel like it's an issue to a certain extent all over the world, no matter where you are.
It's a huge issue, but I would say the stigma is a little bit higher.
In our community.
I actually had an MD friend of mine when I was 30, or in my early 30s, I started seeing a therapist. I've been seeing a therapist almost continuously now for over 25 years. One of the best things I ever did. But this MD came to me and said, Sanjay, why do you see a therapist? Right? Don't you, like, that's what your friends are for? No, they're not. No friend is going to stay my friend if I just sit there for an hour at a time just going on about my problems and what's the demons that are in my head. Like, nobody needs to listen to that shit. So therapy, thank God, is losing its stigma in every segment of society, and including our own segment of society. We're allowed to talk about our mental health issues now a little bit. I openly talk about being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it's something that I've worked really, really hard to get around. Right?
With bipolar, it's interesting because we spoke on this podcast before, because my mom was diagnosed with it recently. As insane as that sounds, she's turning 60 now, but it went untreated for a while because it was just like she's just going through a phase, and that's it, we let it be. but like it came at such a vicious. Like it came out of such a vicious cycle this time. Well, I'm like, no, Dad, like this is more than that.
Were the cycles getting worse?
Yeah. So like this time, it just got to a point. I'm like, no, this is not anything. This is not just a cycle that was like, oh, she'll get better. Like after a couple months, because that's what I was told before, and I was, I told Moke, I wasn't. I didn't have the courage to say, be like, yeah, this is not okay. I didn't have the courage to be there by my side with my mom, knowing she was sick, because I was told like, hey, she's just going through something, and I let it be. And now on the men's side, when it comes to bipolar, like I'm not too familiar in regards to like what your experience was that with bipolar. Like, did you go through like cycles where you were just felt like everybody's against you, no one understands you? Like, what was it like for you when you went through that?
Yeah. So there's two phases, right? There is no normal phase, right? There's either depressed, lying in bed, not wanting to get up. I was fortunate; I was never suicidal, but I just didn't want to do anything. And then one day I wake up, my eyes fly open, and it's like, I'm the king of the world. I can do anything, right? But coming with that is a lot of defocusing, ADHD type of behavior, paranoia, thinking my staff were ganging up against me. At one point, they had to stage an intervention, to stop me from spending money in crazy, stupid ways and just get focused on the company that I had at the time. And I fired everybody, right? Because there wasn't anybody I trusted, anybody I could that could advise me and be heard, right? It's a
slip. Yeah, it's scary because like as you said, when you buy those thoughts can go into every direction, and when they go untreated, they will continuously do that because because thing is, one thing I don't understand, like me and Mo kind of battle with this. This is mixed signaling in between. Should we get a therapist or not? There is now you hear the side of like masculinity. Is therapy considered as something a masculine man would do? This ain't like taking therapy is like something you already know, but you're not doing it. But I'm like, that's the whole point. You know it, but you don't know how to control it. There's two different things. Yeah, I know what's wrong. I'm not getting up at a certain time. My body is shutting down. I don't want to do anything. You know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But it's not just easy. I get up tomorrow and I'm good just because I know how to fix it. But no, you don't. You actually don't tackle the things that are the root of the problem. Speak on that, like how you kind of deciphered that and understood that.
I have to give you a great recent example. So, November, December, just a couple of months ago, I was finding myself spiraling down a little bit. And there's a variety of reasons why it started. But I was talking to my therapist, and she said, is there anything that you do where you never have to worry about like having the energy to get up to do it? And I said, taking my kid to his hockey games, right? I'm 5 a.m., it doesn't matter. It's like, I'm always like, let's go. Let's play the Hockey Night in Canada theme and get out there. And she said, okay, so that seems to be your energy source, right? So when you don't feel like getting up, why don't you just take whatever you're doing and translate it into your kids. You're doing it for your kids. And that becomes your energy source. And I tell you, it was like going off my head, and all of a sudden everything was, the reason I'm coming to the restaurant is to provide for my kids. The reason I'm getting dressed right now is to provide for the kids, to give them the life, to be a role model for my kids. I just hadn't used that framing before. And when I used it, it was the good type of flip, right? And all of a sudden, now I've got my permanent energy source. That's what a therapist can do. They can ask you a couple of key questions, and all of a sudden the lights go on yourself.
I think what's really important, what you mentioned too, is as a part of masculinity, because it took me a long time to recognize it. Because like now it's really pushed, like even with Andrew Tate, right? When we talk about it all the time, is like because he's such a role model within the whole aspect of masculinity. And the only reason for that is because we don't have much role models within the industry, but in the right way though, right? So what you just mentioned is that you're using, because you have a family, because you have kids and stuff that appreciate the value of family, and you look towards like, hey, like I'm putting time towards my kids, that I feed off that energy, and that helps me boost within my own personal life, my work life. I think that's what's missing within our today's world, is because there's such a push where like, be by yourself, right? Work by yourself, do everything by yourself, but nothing's really being reciprocated and appreciated, that the time that you're putting into yourself. is being recognized by people that you truly love, right? So in that sense, it's just like, where's that? I mean, we're using the same word again, like balance, but knowing that, hey, like I'm working towards something, even at the point that you're successful, you make shit ton of money too, right? Like, do you think that's what's missing? Is that type of purpose?
When I see people making this mistake all the time, and it used to kill me inside when I would see somebody that I considered a friend prioritize anything to do with work over relationships. Like if you've got a lunch appointment with a friend that you haven't seen in a while and you cancel it because you have to take a business meeting, that is a mistake. That is always a mistake. That, you've got to sacrifice. You have to work really hard, long hours in your 20s and 30s, right? But that doesn't mean that you ignore your friends, right? And everybody should be your friend. It's not that I have work people and then I have the friends that those are all interactions that you're going to draw energy from. See it all as one big mesh fabric of relationships that you've got to manage. It's all about the relationships. It's not about the money, and it's not about the work. It's not about the fame. It's only about the relationships. Because the other thing is, you make that money, you get that fame, you won't know who your friends are. Right? Your friends get developed before all of that happens.
So would you say that there's any difference with like, that you've made it successful? Like how we were just talking about before, like you had that job that was $200K, whatever it is, but a lot of the people that you met were like, had this fake identity of just having that fake relationships. But then you also drop that job to a $60,000 job where you enjoy life more. But then you're also sacrificing the financial side of it too. It's just like, so then how do you really dictate like who's really there for you then?
I think it's like understanding your why, like how Sanjay said, like what's your why?
What's your why? So for me, what turned out was I just didn't function well in a big company. If you're in a big company, you've got to pretend to like people you don't like. So my sister is phenomenal at just interpersonal relationships. She can put on a smile and get along with anybody. And it's not that she's being fake. She genuinely just sees inside people better than I do. Right? I can't put up with surface bullshit at all. I'm getting a little bit better at it, but I just don't have that patience. And so I needed to be in a small company where I could pick the people and also feel like I was controlling the direction the company was going in. Overall, and I mean, like I said, I had equity in that company. I ended up making more with that company than I did at the Fortune 500 company. And I enjoyed myself, right? So,
and I think what you kind of hit the nail on the coffin when it comes to surrounding yourself with like genuine relationships. Now, I get on the call with my boys. Maybe like we try to do this. We try to do it every Sunday. There's 3 of them. I know them since grade 7. I have a small circle. Like the amount of laughter, the fun we have in that hour, and knowing that everybody is genuinely happy inside, and then. And at the end of the call, like everybody says, we're like, boys, we gotta start doing it every Sunday, we gotta do this. And then like I started thinking to myself, I'm like, man, like that hour probably for my other friend, like I might not know what was going on in the last couple months, but it felt like I took a relief off his burden, just talking to him and having the laughter and talking about the dumbest things. And for me, we were at the happiest in our life. Like we forgot about everything. We were just laughing and having good talks. And now we're straying away from that. Call the friend that you feel like, put your ego aside. So I'll call the friend that you get along great with, but you haven't called it because, he hasn't messaged me. Well, I'm gonna go message them. But like, put your ego aside.
Think about how happy you feel when somebody that you love, randomly calls you up out of the blue and say, I happened to think about you and I thought I haven't talked in a while. How awesome is that phone call? That conversation that comes out of that. So my kids now ask me things like, how do we have friends? Like, how do we manage our friendships? And so something I didn't know when I was a kid, and I had trouble making friends, and I've realized this now, is the number one way to make friends is to demonstrate that you like people, right? If you're the kind of guy who goes down the hall, smiling at people, hey buddy, how's it going, right? People will like you because you like them, right? And I was the glum, resting bitch face kind of guy, right? And I didn't realize that I need to smile, shake hands, get out there. And now, as I'm getting older, I'm actually able to get along better with everybody because I realized I was the problem all along, right? As long as I'm smiling and shaking hands and demonstrating that I like people, they will like me back in a genuine way. And I think our youth don't, because everything, I don't blame screens for everything, right? But they have not helped us with interpersonal relations. So you need to get out there and demonstrate that you like people. Smile, shake hands, hang out, just
normalize that
Normalize,
social like conformity,
Interaction,
interaction, because it's important.
Yeah.
Like now we're heading towards this like the like with VR, like we spoke this, like now you can sit at home, experience something you're middle like across the world. You're like, why do I leave the conformity of my house where I'm comfortable to go somewhere? But then again, it's like what are we promoting? But it's like I think it comes down to society, what we make acceptable, and the longer we get out there, as you said, like, come out on the weekend, come to like a restaurant as such as your like Runway 06, like come here, like meet people, even if you're alone. That's like the greatest time to connect with people. Because when you're with your friend, your comfort is like, oh, my friend's here, I'm just gonna talk to them, I'm just gonna stick together all night, that's it. And you're gonna go home, right? But like when you come by yourself and you start interacting, it pushes you.
Yeah.
You're not going
So as the owner, right, one of the best things I can do is randomly go around talking to tables, right? You would think it would be easy. I'm the owner, right? But I actually get nervous. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to interrupt them. But when I walk up and I just say, hey, hi guys, my name's Sanjay. I'm the owner here. Just wanted to see how you're doing. What brings you guys out tonight? That's it. Big smiles on everybody's faces. They want to tell their story. They're happy to meet me. They're happy. It's so rewarding, as you say, on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have to be with friends. Just randomly walking up to people, smiling, shaking hands. It's so rewarding that our bodies reward that with the dopamine hits, the oxytocin, right? So.
Yeah, and kind of putting that together into what I was kind of getting, I wanted to get your understanding on that. How do you go about then knowing what you know and investing in other companies? As like a venture capitalist, you know what you want, you know what a success looks like to you and how you think a person should go about it. Do you think a company that you could see like, oh, there's a lot of success, but the person who's running it, I don't know if this is the right person that I see myself correlating with their values and whatnot. Do you feel like at times you have passed up an opportunity with a certain company just because you feel like, this person, they understand the model, but they don't understand the underneath surface of it?
So I'll tell you, okay, I have so many stories about this because I've invested in probably over 100 companies, right?
Yeah.
And my worst decisions were when I thought I could read the person. When I thought,
really?
oh, this person's not committed, or this person's really smart, or this person's like really knows what they're doing. No, I'm always wrong, always wrong. You can only tell looking back that, it was that person who was brilliant and made the company successful. All I can tell looking forward is, okay, the guy's not a complete idiot, or the girl's not a complete idiot. The product is something that's needed in the market, and there seems to be some kind of a fit between the company. And then you make the best decision you can. You invest the same amount every time because you do not know which company is going to be successful. Make the same bet every time and see who else is investing. If you want to try and assess competence or something like that, do it based on your co-investors. So, for example, if a friend comes to you and says, hey, I know a guy who's raising money for a business, right? You don't know the person directly, right? And they're going around to people to get $50,000 or $100,000 from individuals, right?
Yeah.
Run screaming from that business, right? Because the people who are professional investors like me, we look at everything. We find out about every deal. So if somebody's going to random, like friends of friends or acquaintances, angel networking groups, things like that, right? That means all the professional investors have said no. Right? And the reason I said no was because if you tell me you've got XYZ product that's going to attach to Tesla vehicles, I'll go call up some senior executive at Tesla because I know them, right? And they'll tell me, no, we're not actually doing that. But some other person isn't going to have that kind of expertise, right? You think, oh, no, I discovered this great new company that's doing these amazing things that nobody else knows about. No, we know about it, right? You have to get in on the companies. You want to invest in companies that I invest in, right?
Yep.
I want to invest in companies that Mark Cuban invests in, right?
Yeah.
So not the ones that nobody...
That's true.
How do you go about with like if it's a new business, new venture, right? And somebody's trying to generate some sort of funds to, trying to take it to the next level. Then how do you go about what advice would you give to them? Then like how do you approach the type of people like yourself? Like what should they ask for? Like how do they approach you? Like, hey, this is an opportunity that's maybe it's not that it's very rare in the industry itself, right?
So there's a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
One piece of advice that, goddamn, I wish somebody told me when I was 25.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's common advice now. You tell me if you guys know this, is that if you want advice, ask for money. And if you want money, ask for advice.
Okay.
Right?
I have heard that. I've heard that.
So if you genuinely a clear conscience go up to somebody who has money and says, look, this is my idea. Can you give me some advice on how to do this? I will look at that. And if I think you know what you're doing, I will then offer the money. Right?
Okay.
But if you
That's
come
true.
in asking for money, I'm going to say, here's all the things you have to do. Right? So, but the other piece of advice then on that is always go in through a connection. Right?
Okay.
Never cold call.
Never cold
Like
call.
the number of emails I get, phone calls, everything, just random people coming up and saying, can you take a look at my business? Like delete all day long. I need somebody I know to have vetted the person first. And it's not hard. LinkedIn is so easy to use these days,
Oh,
right? It's like,
100%.
just find out who you know in common, call up that person and say, can you introduce me to so-and-so?
Yeah.
If the mutual friend won't introduce you, you've got bigger problems, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no,
I mean,
that's
true.
I'm open to meeting people anytime. If a friend of mine says, I would like you to meet somebody, I will always make time for them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know what? The thing is, like, when it comes to on the business aspect of it, people realize like you don't have to operate a business to be successful. Like success is not correlated with having your own business. And I tell people this, like my friend, like he lives in Irving now. He used to be in Silicon Valley. He's like, I quit a job that was paying me more. He's like, it was more stressful. He's like, I'm at a job where it pays me less, but I have my wife by my side. I have my daughter, and he's like the happiest I've ever been.
That sounds like a recipe.
Yeah, like, and he's like, this is the happiest I've ever been. But then, a lot of people, like, they open a business for no reason. Just because it's set out there to be successful, you got to have a business. You got to have a business. No, you do not.
Yeah.
Happiness is not attained by a monetary value or a superficial thing that you see online, because now because it's the normality of the world now. I'm like, a lot of people are not meant to run a business. A lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes, like, I look at myself, like, when I operated a restaurant, I'm like, am I fit to run a business? Maybe I work better in a managerial role, which is true. That's just the traits that we have possessed as ourselves. I think a lot of people just need to decipher for themselves, put yourself in a position where you're like, am I actually good as an A1 or A2 in a business? And take a step back and humble yourself. Like, put that ego aside, And that's the one thing I want to talk to you about. Like, a lot of time as men, ego get in our way. I'm like, no, I can't do this shit. Like, you're telling me I can't do this? Yes, I can. I'm going to prove you, just to prove you wrong, that I can't do this. But then you realize, man, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. No, ego is such a, sorry. Yes. The dumbass things I've done for the sake of ego, for trying to prove a point, for trying to win over somebody. And, the only person you're competing with is yourself.
Have you ever had any battles with yourself, I want to say, like, or story where you let your ego get the best of you?
All the freaking time. Okay. So I've been fired 4 times, right? I mean, I ended up being an entrepreneur because I couldn't get along with people, right? And then I remember this. My staff used to be terrified of me.
Really?
I have this unusual superpower, which is that I'm really good at firing people, which means it's not that I don't have a problem with it. It's still emotionally difficult, but relative to other people, I'm
a lot of people have that issue.
Yeah. So I found out once that there was a pool running at my audiobooks company about who was going to get fired next, because without me knowing that I had done it, I had fired somebody 8 months in a row, one person each month.
Wow.
Right? It just happened that way. And so it was like Deadpool before Deadpool, right? It's like, who's going to be next on the chopping block? I found out about it, and I actually felt really, really bad. Right? That I had started deciding that it was more about me and my competency than it was about building a solid team. Right? And I had to take a good hard look at myself and realize that I needed to trust my people more.
Yeah, see, and that's another thing I wanted to speak to you about. When it comes to audiobooks, what made you even like come with the idea or build a team and trust that team? Because a lot of the time, like, our team is representation of who we are. A lot of people don't realize that. And and even with firing, this is important. And the reason why I say it's important, if you let that rotten apple sit, it will spread. And it will spread quickly, because when you normalize one thing, it will spread so quick, it will ruin your team.
Every bad decision I've made in business started with not firing somebody fast enough. And I'm pretty good at firing people, right? But it's a myth that you can actually tell, sitting down and talking to somebody, it's a myth that you can tell if they're going to be good at their job. You can't. The absolute best interviewers in the world are wrong half the time. Okay, so the only thing you can do is hire them, like make sure that they're not complete idiots, right? Hire them and then fire them fast when you realize, okay, they're not actually capable of doing this job. But you get all that information during probation, right? During the first few months.
Yeah.
Why don't you fire them? I see it here. Everybody's terrified of not being liked, right?
Yeah.
And firing
Don't get in the best out of Sanjay.
Yeah. So I try and, so it's funny, when I lose people, even when I fire them, I do the classic, this actually works. It's not you, it's me.
not me, yeah.
It's not me. But believe it or not, I did this once with a CFO that I fired.
Oh,
Okay?
wow.
It's like, you are too good at your job. You just, you want all that control over the finances, and I'm insecure, and I can't stand that somebody so good at their job is around me. It makes me even feel more insecure. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to let you go. I'm letting you go because you're too good at your job. No, she's fucking incompetent. She didn't really understand spreadsheets and stuff. But as a result, then the relationship continued, right?
Yeah.
So you have to let people down easy, because that person, they're not completely incompetent. They're just not right for the role that you had for them.
Yep.
They will go out. Letting them go is the best thing you can do for them. They can go be successful somewhere else.
Yep.
Right?
So true.
They're not going to be successful in your organization.
Yeah. So you feel like having that mentality kind of helped you with, getting to a point where you sold audiobooks for 56 million. Now, what was the ups and downs when it comes to audiobooks? A lot of people know, be like, oh, audiobooks. Oh yeah, we know audiobooks. But a lot of people don't know what in the background noise what went to make audiobooks.
Oh,
How do you even got to a point where like it's worth millions and billions of dollars?
Yeah. No. I mean, sorry. There's a lot of stories there. There's a lot of stories there. So I'll tell you one story, which was when I launched the business in Canada. Right, we launched it. So the idea was Netflix back in the day used to mail out DVDs to people.
Yeah.
Right. And so we decided to rip off that idea and mail out CD audiobooks to people. That was the original idea. And Netflix eventually went to streaming movies, and we eventually went to streaming audiobooks, right? But back in the original times, we were mailing out CDs.
Yep.
And we launched in Canada, and we were only getting one customer every second day. I mean, we're on the verge of bankruptcy. We burned through all of our cash. And the only way that we were going to be able to succeed was if we launched in the US, but we didn't have enough money to launch in the US. I didn't want to go raise another $500,000 to open a US warehouse and be able to ship out of the US without knowing if there was any business that was going to be there, right? And so I came up with the idea of creating a fake website to sell product in the US and do credit card processing on it, right, to see if people would buy. My own staff revolted and said, we're not going to do this. It's a lie. It's committing fraud. It's like, it's somewhere between sales and entrepreneurship. I mean, that's what, fake it till you make it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true though.
We got 10 customers the first day, 10 customers the second day. And it was like,
wow.
Hallelujah, thank you, right? Shut it down. We apologized to 20 people, right? We raised $500,000, launched in the US, and saved the business.
Wow.
Right? So these moments happen all the time, right? There's no such thing as a business that you launch and it just kind of skyrockets.
Yeah.
It's every time there's a wall. I remember at one point we were using PayPal to do all of our credit card processing, and they froze our accounts, right?
Really?
And nobody would answer the phone to tell us why they had frozen the accounts. And again, we were running, couldn't make payroll, couldn't do anything. Eventually, through a contact, managed to get a hold of a vice president at PayPal. Spent an hour and a half on the phone explaining that we weren't a fraudulent business, that we were doing legitimate things online. Eventually, they unfroze the accounts. But that kind of thing can kill a business.
Destroy a business, yeah.
And it happens all the time. Just understand, when you launch a business, you're going to come up with these moments all the time. And somebody who's meant to be an entrepreneur can deal with that kind of stress. It is not for everybody.
It's
man.
not. Yeah. And I think the main thing you kind of hit on the top is adaptability. I think is crucial. And that's why you feel like businesses die down a lot of the time. Let's classic example, from our CDs area, Blockbuster. Right?
Yeah.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Blockbuster. We're old heads, so we know what Blockbuster is and was. And their motto is funny. What was the one thing that kids used to do? Take the CDs home and put a different CD in and return it back. And then they're like,
that's so true. Was that a thing? Wow, okay, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, so back in the day,
friends.
I'm telling you, back in the day, we didn't have enough money. I can't buy a $60 game. So you would go to Blockbuster, you would rent it out for $5 or $10, and then you go home, you put a different CD in, and to return it.
Wow.
So like,
Brilliant.
and then that's what. So and then they were originally CDs used to be open. There were no case covers. So people just taking CDs, putting them in the pants, and they would walk out of stores.
Walk out of the store.
So what Blockbuster started doing is they started putting that little tape on the plastic wrap and the tape. So that's why actually it originated from, because people were stealing in stores. So they put a plastic wrap on it. But then guess what? People use a key or whatever. They open it up, and guess what? Blockbuster converted to what? Those big, thick plastic cases.
Yeah.
And that's where that came from, because people.
I didn't know that story. That's fascinating.
So
Okay.
people. So then Blockbuster like, okay, we gotta find something else to prevent all this theft that's happening, because they're losing business. So now then they put the thick plastic. Then guess what? People find a way around to open those as well. So now they got to a point where like, okay, we're at a failing business that we can't adapt to the audio side of it. They never maneuvered around to find. I think if they would have found a way at an early time, because they were ahead of the game.
They were way ahead of the game.
They were way ahead of
but
the game.
Think about the ego that it took at Blockbuster to not see digital coming.
It's
right?
insane.
Like audiobooks for us, there came a point where our biggest competitor is a company called Audible, owned by Amazon.
Audible,
They were digital from the get-go, but they were like, I don't know, less than 1% of the market. And eventually, but they were growing. And I could tell, like, if you sit down at an annual meeting and you say, okay, what's this industry going to look like 10 years from now? You have to get out of the CD business.
You do,
right?
yeah.
I don't understand how somebody like Blockbuster doesn't see that coming. And it's because you got a bunch of guys who are making their fat salaries, sitting around the conference table, and they're not thinking. They're thinking, we're rich, we're on top, we'll figure it out. Nobody can challenge us. And then
they don't realize how
gone.
fast the world changed.
Yeah.
You know?
It's changing now.
It is. It's changing now. And then, do you feel like now, given the business that you run, it allows you to give different perspective or soak in more knowledge given the people you have around us? Because your employees, they're the one that see everything. A lot of people are like, no, what do you know about it? Like, I'm the boss. Like, no, like, I know what's going on in my business. Like, who are you to say? Because like,
okay, sorry, I got a great story to tell you. Great story to tell you. Okay, I've talked about, publicly about psychedelics for mental health. Okay,
Yeah.
Psychedelics are actually useful for problem solving.
Really?
Right. So, a buddy and I decided I wasn't. Okay, I got to tell you the whole story. Right? Here's what happened. So we decided we were going to use psychedelics for problem solving. We were just going to write down a problem that we had in our lives, and we were going to take 2 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, and my assistant was going to be there. She was going to be monitoring us, making sure that we stayed on track instead of just like giggling at the walls for a few hours, right? So we got it. We're up. Our creative juices are flowing and everything. And my buddy opens up his paper, and his question that he's trying to solve is, what's my purpose in life? He's like, wow, that's a good one, man. Yeah, that's good. So we talked about it, eventually about learning and raising kids and stuff. He said, okay, it's your turn. You unroll it. I said, oh, I don't want to open mine now because I'm embarrassed. I said, come on, open it. So I open it up. How do I sell more drinks at my restaurant? Was my question, okay?
Yeah.
And he says, okay, before we start brainstorming and coming up with ideas, what did your staff say when you asked them? And I just started laughing.
Like, wait, I didn't ask my staff.
I started laughing. It's like, it never occurred to me to ask my staff. So my assistant made a note because we were too high to write this stuff down. The next day, I went and asked my staff, what do we do to sell more drinks? And they said, we need more point of sale terminals. The things where you punch in the drink orders, we didn't have enough of them. And so a line would form of servers trying to enter their drink orders, and it added 10 minutes to the order time every time, right? So people were getting upset that the orders took too long to come in. Cost $300 to put in a new point of sale system. Our drink times went better and our sales went up 20%.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Because it occurred to me to ask our staff. You're absolutely right. You have to ask people. The best source of information about how your customers feel is your employees. They're the ones who are dealing with them every day.
Yeah.
So yes, you have to get out there and ask that question.
Yeah. I think a lot of people overlook that. I'm lucky enough that I wasn't running a big, I didn't have 30 or like a 40 employees or 100 that you have dealt with, a smaller scale. But for me, it made me realize to the core, like the smaller the business, the more important it is for to listen to your employees, because they're the ground zero. They're on the ground. They know the ins and outs of what's going on. And then, as you said, you combine that with your ability to be confident and be unwillingness to like, oh, I don't want to fight, I don't want to hurt the feelings. Like I'm a shitty person. I think when you put that all together and having that able to adapt is a way to find success in life, and that's what led you to selling your company for 56 million, because that's an achievement that people dream of, that people will write books about. One day I wish I want to do this. So it's a testament to your character, Sanjay, and I mean that. Not a lot of people can get to the point in life where they build something that changed the whole game, how certain industries looked at. Do you feel like sometimes you sit back, like when you sold that company for 56 million, you sat back, we're like, wow, I did that shit.
That's a big number.
You're like, I did that shit.
Not once, not twice, not 10 times, a lot. Yeah. It's like I was really proud of it. But I'll tell you something, because we have this veneration or admiration for billionaires in our society. So I got to tell you something. So having made 50 million, I fly private jets. I can do whatever I want, right? To make more money than that, so this is one of the things I'm most proud of, is that after I made that money, I stopped trying to make money. I do things. I have businesses and stuff, but I'm not trying to be a billionaire. To be a billionaire, you have to be obsessed with money, right? You look at Elon Musk and about how he's trying to pay himself $500 million pay packages. Yeah. Like, why? It's because he's obsessed with money, right? So, and you don't need $50 million, right? God, I don't think you need $1 million, right? Just get a job that pays your expenses and spend less. Just spend less and focus on hanging out with your friends and doing that Sunday night phone call, right? It's like that's where all your happiness is going to come from, right?
But we correlate that. We correlate money to success, though. We do, because people like, okay, we do, right? Because to a certain extent, you do need to have the balance. Well, obviously, it can be attained whether you're making high figures or low figures. It's attaining that that balance. But again, a lot of people we laugh about it with my friends. I'm like, a lot of people that say they have money, we're like, oh, you don't need money. But like, yeah, damn hell I do. But you tell it to a person who needs money. Imagine if someone who was $1 million, someone who's 60,000, they're like, yeah, money's not important. You're gonna look at them like, yeah, give me that $1 million, you take my 60.
So Jim Carrey had a great quote, because he suffered from depression after he made it big in Hollywood, right? And he said, my wish for everybody is that they make that $10 million, and so that they can personally experience it's not about the money. Right? So it's easy for me to say, right? That and I wish for you guys, for everybody, to have such a great life that you make enough money, you realize it was never about the money.
Yeah. Obviously, it allows you to, do the things that you want in life. Yeah, money is important in a sense, but like if you want like a nice house in a nice area, you want to buy the nice certain things, but again, comes back to, is that important to you?
Well, why do you want a nice house in a nice area, right?
Because that's what we've been told. Watching a big...
I know.
We watch movies.
No, our parents
even our parents
drum this into us, right? But if you're secure in yourself, and if you have good relationships, why do you need anything else, right? Why do you need anything else?
But it's so hard though, Sanjay. Like, me and Mok talk about it. Like, when it comes to a relationship, like, if you're not making an X amount of money when it comes to, like, if you're not spoiling your girl, like, if they're not getting this X amount, they will look at you a little bit different. Because that's what, like, I don't know, maybe it's just the people that we were meeting, or like, I'm lucky enough with my girlfriend. I'm like, yo, if I were to go broke tomorrow, I'm like, will you ride out with me? She's like, of course I'm in. She's like, I know you'll make it back, or if you don't make it back, you provide me the life that's happy for both of us. Yeah. And that's why I respect her for saying that.
But it's really tough though, because now it's a standard now, right? Like, because like the society is so manipulated what's online, like this lavish life, going flights and stuff like that, but it's not realistic though. But then it's also bad as like us as men, like we're like, okay, like maybe this is why we're so alone within our own life, that we have this expectation like, okay, if I don't make this money, then I'm worthless. My worth is nothing as a man. And a lot of us come to this reality, like we accept it. We're like, those people that have made it, they made it for a reason. They did this and that. But I'm in not that position. I'm not worth enough to attract this type of person, this type of person in my life. And I need to work my ass off to sacrifice everything for it. And then maybe that's why it's so tough for us to live in the moment. It's just like we can't enjoy the moment.
Well, I would say that maybe you should work your ass off.
You should, right?
You should work your ass off.
Lazy person.
I mean, what else are you doing? I mean, forming relationships is a form of working as well, right?
Yeah.
But I would say it's not all these like ego and mental issues are not restricted to men, right? There's
Yep.
lots of women out there who are
Deal with the
messed
same
up in
thing.
how they value men or how they value themselves, and you just need to find the people who've kind of figured it out. First of all, be the person who's figured it
Figured
out.
out, yep.
Be a person who can be a good friend and a good partner, and then that will attract the person who can be a good friend and
Yeah.
can be a good partner.
You know what the issue is? I feel like Sanjay, like I was talking to Mark, I'm like, we're giving, I don't want to say we, but like, we're giving the platform to the wrong people to have influence over the
Yeah.
younger audience. And this is where it comes down to Andrew Tate and all these other influences that considered as masculine. But thing is, like, if you look at the deep down root of the problem, what their business is and what they talk about. Okay, when it comes to Andrew Tate, he's like, I don't want a family, right? But in a traditional manner, that's what a happiness attains, is having a beautiful family that you can come.
Yeah.
But he's like, I don't want a family anymore. So he's appealing to like that toxic side of masculinity in a way where like his business, what was it? It was webcam show preying on weaker men to come on. That was his business.
Yeah.
But then he goes on podcasts like, I want men to work harder and go out there, work out and improve their mental health. But you were advocating for something else when it was making you millions of dollars. And then the hypocrisy in that is insane. But then we put them on a pedestal. We're like, no, he's a real man. Like,
Yeah.
how did that?
That's problematic. Okay, so I had an Instagram post. I was gotten 4 or 5 million views where I laughed at Andrew Tate, right? The shit comments I get from people on
Really?
that post, people like, just insulting me personally or whatever. Like, it's something like, I don't know, 50, 80 comments a day. That post was 6 months ago.
Wow.
Still get
Still.
80 comments a day. And my social media manager says, can you please disable comments on this post? It's attracting
They're like,
all
I
kinds
can't,
of.
yeah.
It's like, no, let them have their let them have their outlet, right?
Yeah.
Like, that guy. Oh my.
I think it throws off the balance. It throws off the balance where now men expect something else from a woman, and now women look at men from that light because now they're following that person. We're like, no, what the hell? Like, men are trash. And then as men, we're like, nah, women are like, they're just out here. Like, I don't want a woman that's like, let's just be real. Like, oh, I don't want a woman that's a hoe. Like, oh no, men are all trash. All you guys want to like fuck around, do stupid
want
shit.
money and shit
Yeah,
like
so
that,
now
yeah.
like the balance is thrown off in such a different spectrum.
Yeah.
And like that coming to the middle is such a, people don't want to work to the middle and understand. Like like, give us an advice. Like I don't know if you want to dive into more like how you got divorced and whatnot, but give us like I don't want to get too personal. I don't know if you're okay with speaking on it. If you are,
I'm an open book.
Yeah, so like,
I got a lot of questions
Yeah,
about.
speak on that.
yeah.
Like, getting divorced at an age where you feel like, yeah, everything should be coming together, but now it's falling apart.
Yeah.
Like even like probably within your own network, your group of friends, like you probably have the same type of people like that has that type of level of wealth. So it's a higher risk, like the amount of your income you're making, and then you're kind of like double-sided, like in your own mind is like, is this, if they are, the people that are in your circle, they're single, whatever, they're looking for someone, then you have to look at the aspect of like, hey, I'm also maybe risking my financials too, because I don't know if this actually this person's actually good for
the
me, or is this
biggest
for the
financial decision you are ever going to make is who you partner with.
Yeah.
and the risks are enormous, but the risks come from inside you. So I'll tell you a little therapy story here. So growing up, my parents fought a lot, right? Not unusual for immigrant households, right? It's probably the standard.
Yeah.
It's the standard. So anyway, I thought fighting every day was normal. I thought throwing dishes at your husband was normal. I thought so when I got into my marriage, right, we fought every day.
Wow.
There weren't good days and bad days. There were good hours and bad weeks. Okay, but I thought that was normal. Right?
That's what we've been taught.
It took me 6 years to eventually, it was the depression, bankruptcy, everything kind of all came together. It took 6 years for me to be able to get out of that because I'd just been trained badly. And so the lesson I want to say here is the shit we put up with as kids, or that we're put through as kids, and how we internalize that affects everything we do through our lives. And with a lot of good therapy or good friends and insight and walks and meditation and journaling and whatever else you do for your mental health, you will eventually get over all the programming that was done to you as a child to be able to be the person who can bring love into their lives.
Yeah.
But understand that you were programmed as a child, and in all likelihood you were programmed poorly. Right?
So how do you go exactly with deciphering, like if you made that level of wealth, right? Because you just don't know who's actually wants to have that relationship with you whether if they have that fake identity, that fake kind of
Yeah. So look, I'm
personality.
not sure what advice I was so fortunate that I met my wife that I've been married to now for 18 years. I met her before I made my money. I had the company, but the company hadn't done its,
it hasn't got to the point where it was
vertical yet. Because I don't know, it would be very hard now to meet somebody because I'm surrounded by people that are after me for things.
Because the thing is, like, you know, like divorce is really, I mean, there are certain circumstances like divorce is the best route, right? For your own peace of mind.
Absolutely. Anytime. So I would say at least once a week, somebody comes up to me and says, oh, so-and-so and I aren't together anymore. We're getting divorced. We're separated. And my answer is always like, high five. We're going to celebrate. because somebody is going to have a much better life after a divorce. And it's usually the person that's my friend. Yeah. Right? So you got to congratulate them because you have to make that decision, move on.
Do.
But there's an aspect of like where it can also be utilized as an escape route without really going through that hardship, because the relationship it's not gonna be easy, right? Like you're gonna go through difficult times but the thing is, like, a lot of people nowadays, they don't want to go through that. They escape from hardship. They don't want to go through the difficult times, and then when they see the opportunity where divorce is an option as a scapegoat to run away from problems, then there's an aspect of it just like, okay, if you're at a level of wealth that you have, and you meet someone who you think has a really great personality, who's actually there for you, and then something go through hardship. Because like the thing is, like, a business, you can go bankrupt right away. Like, you don't have control over that. So then if, let's say, the business goes bankrupt, you lose all your money, and this person just leaves with half of your income, then it's like,
no,
what do you do at that
situation?
point?
But you're right. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to do the hard work in a relationship. There's no, and my marriage is fantastic. Okay?
Yeah.
My marriage is fantastic. That doesn't mean there aren't hard times. Right. And so we see a couples therapists regularly, just not because there's a problem, so that we have a safe space to talk, to air things before they become problems. I think it should be absolutely mandatory if you get married, especially if you have kids, to see a couples therapist.
You know what's interesting? You say that about that seeing a therapist. I don't think we as men realize the deep-rooted issue in a lot of when it comes to women. Postpartum, their bodies changing, this, that, like when we get into marriage, like women talk to us, well, I'm like, man, you'll be okay, like, don't worry, like, I'll be there. She's like, Amir, that, like, you know, when somebody talked to me, like, my girlfriend's like, Amir, like, that doesn't do you great, you're there. She's like, you're not fucking giving the baby. My body is, I'm the one who's pushing it out, right? She's like, that's gonna change everything about my body. But like, as a man, we're never gonna understand that because we don't have that connection with a man's mind. We're like, with our brains, like, that's gonna happen. And then the reason why I feel like we don't understand that in our community, like even my mom, I'm like, Mom, why are you rushing me? I'm 30. Why are you wanting me to get married? Why? I don't get it. And then like, it kind of goes back to that pressure, but like, you know, your dad's starting to get old. Like, they're pressuring you. Like, I'm like, what? Okay, like, do you want me to like unwind his age? Like, I can't. Like, I can't marry a person like, because you want me to get married. And we feel that pressure in our community, which tend to lead to a lot of divorce rate. Because you rush in a relationship, let's get married, because the first 6 months, a year is great, right? But then the nitty gritty of it, we're like, wait, are we compatible in every aspect of life? Sexually, are we compatible? Because those are important. We rush those under the rug because, you know, like, let's not talk about that. We become shy all of a sudden, right? But it's important to know every single aspect. And that's what I feel like we gotta stray away from is don't feel that pressure from a parent to get married. Because, you know, as sad as it is, we don't know when our life's going to come to an end, whether ours or theirs, we don't know. It's inevitable part of life. It's going to come to an end one day. But don't feel pressurized just because, hey, we gotta get married because our parents told us, because they want to see our grandkids, or, you know, that whole shebang. You know it more than anybody else. Like, how do you balance? Because it's so hard, man. Like, you have
to understand, the parents are pushing you to get married. It's about them, not about you.
Yeah.
They don't know whether that's going to make you happy or not, but they'll know that their work is then done.
Exactly.
Right? So they're just trying to finish their job, right?
It's hard, man, because I tell them, like,
hear it, and then just get on with your life.
That's
you get married when you feel like. For me, I didn't plan on getting married again. I got married again because I met somebody that I wanted to have kids with, and it's not just about kids, but I knew there was no question in my mind. Just I want to be with this person. So when you have that person, marry him. Why not?
Marry him. Right?
Yeah. And then with you know, kind of by all means, like, share what you can with your divorce and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You said that your daughter that's three years old when you got divorced?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so this is the aspect that we don't really talk about just in general, is like how it affects the kids, right?
Yeah.
So through the divorce, because like even for myself, like my parents split when I was of course a lot older than that, but I was 16, my sister was 12, right? And how much impacted both like the gender roles and aspect of like a nuclear family as well. Right. So with going into the aspect of just like knowing that, okay, you both agree that you want to go separate ways, but then how do you go with like how to explain it to the child, especially when it's 3 years old and even just growing up?
And you know, look, I can't say that I did it well.
Yeah.
The decision I made that I think was the right decision was that when my ex-wife and I weren't able to hide our fighting from our child anymore, and we started fighting in front of the child, you know, swearing or screaming in front of the child. It's like, you know, we're not doing this kid any favors by being together. And you know, my parents were from a time when you don't get divorced, right? And so they stayed together despite the fighting. My sister and I, growing up, we saw it. We didn't understand why they didn't get divorced. Right. So you know, some people say you should stay together for the sake of the children. I think you should try really hard.
You should,
for the sake of the children. But you shouldn't then stay together for the sake of the children. Just try really hard, right? And if it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out. They will have great lives. More than 50% of my kids' classmates are coming from families that are in,
broken.
Broken
that's crazy,
in some
that's
way.
crazy,
So it's not stigmatized. It's not abnormal anymore. It's just
normal,
another way of living. You'd rather have at least one parent who's happy than two that are miserable.
Yeah. How does it go with like playing like both roles of just, you know, like trying to explain to your daughter too, right? Like, you know, like the explanation of like the feminine role, right? Her being feminine, but also like making sure that both parents or like whatever situation that you guys have sort of.
Did you guys have custody? Yeah, do you guys have custody then?
Custody
or
in that sense,
how was it like when you guys go?
No, for me, because again, I was going through my bipolar and depression and everything at the time that I got divorced. So my wife got custody. And so I tried to see my daughter regularly. Initially, it was hard, but it got better and better. And she and I have a fantastic relationship now. She's 29 years old. She's a psychiatrist. Finished her residency.
Good for her.
And she had to do a lot of her own healing. Right, because of the stuff we put her through as a child. But again, hey, that's human, right?
That's part of life.
If you're gonna have kids, you are gonna screw up your kids. I guarantee it. Okay, so just be there for them when they need the therapy.
I think it's really important, like with how you guys have it set up, like, you know, the presence of both parenthood, both parents within a child impacts regardless. Like, look, like I'm not here to say like you should definitely work hard to stay together to try to make it work, but if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, right? Like I mean, at the end of the day, like you gotta have your own peace, your own happiness, but you gotta also pay attention to how it's gonna affect the child, which is very important. What you did, right? Like you made sure like your presence, like you have presence in your child's life.
Yeah, you have to, man. Because like at the end of the day, you're the byproduct. You're the environment.
Well, think about the role model, the modeling that you're doing, right? If you choose to stay in a bad situation for the sake of the child, what the child sees is, oh, I should stay in a bad situation for the sake of somebody else. You do not want to train your kids to do that.
And the program, as you said, it's like the unprogramming. Like it starts from that. And then the thing is, like now we tend to judge our parents too hard given what they went through. And we're like,
that's true.
I'm like, you know what? Like they went through to give us the life that they couldn't have for the sake of the better for us. I'm like, realize that. Have that realization. It's not, our parents are not our enemies. They did whatever they could to give us a better life. They give everything they could to make our life better rather than crucifying them. But like, nah, you put me through this trauma, you put me through this hell. Realize, we're like, okay, you did that so I could kind of take that to a better, like to navigate that better for my future self. Obviously, there's going to be different problems that I have to assess with that I might, as you said, traumatize my kids with. But guess what? At least I navigated one puzzle. Now it's up to my kids to navigate the next puzzle. You know, that's what life is about. But now we're too harsh.
You raised a really good point. I mean, that we need to forgive our parents. Right? They were doing the best they could with what they knew and
with what
the resources they had.
We never really recognized that as growing up, because then it's just like you just start hating, like, oh, why am I in this? why you gotta be like, you know, you're getting your ass whipped and stuff like that. But I mean,
Mark's having flashbacks.
I was thinking, were you a bad child, Mark? Okay, no.
We'll edit there.
I'm kidding.
No, but it's just like, you know, we don't recognize that at the beginning because like they didn't learn anything from their parents, right? Maybe they've probably gone through a lot more worse situations that we have, because And again, they came here with nothing. They probably worked shitty jobs that they didn't want to work. They didn't pursue what they wanted to for their passion. And, we don't recognize that back then, but we recognize it now. And I think it's even more important for us to take on that role, making sure that our parents enjoy, experience the things that they were able to experience when they came here.
But it comes up to one thing, I think. Build a legacy. Our parents have built a legacy for us. It's like, what's the legacy you want to pave? That's what it comes down to. And that's what I'm so fond about you, Sanjay, as weird as that sounds. I love what you do. I generally do. Like, you have your newsletter where you, Sanjay, say, you let your thoughts express out there. You don't try to hide away from any topics, whether mental health, is people going to perceive me as weak as a man, or you don't care to have your takes on certain things, which I admire. I want to get to that point where, where the money I have is enough for me, and I'm happy, and it really is a testament to your character. To you had that self-development to where you are today.
Thank you.
And it goes to show it really is doing things that make you happy. You don't gotta have this restaurant, but you do it because you see everything around us that brings you life. Right? And you feel like this what keeps you going at a point that you are where, you are at a part of your life where a lot of people tend to sail off in the boat where go on vacations and enjoy life. But this what brings you joy.
No, yeah. And the reason it brings me joy is because it's a gathering place.
Yeah.
Right? I love when my friend, nothing better for me than if I just happen to be standing by the front door and a friend I haven't seen in a while happens to walk in and say, hey, Sanjay, you're here. It's like, oh my God, I built this place for you to come in. This is amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
I think that's what really comes down to, having that, realization, you know what, do what's fun, be, know the ins and outs of it. Don't be an idiot. Don't be just if you know you're just losing money left, right, center, but you know what, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep doing it. But it has to come to an end, to a point where be realistic with what you want, right? So, and that's what it's great to see. But I think, and that's what I was looking forward to the podcast again, because there's so many different areas that I love touching with you, because I feel like you've been down to so many areas, business wise, relationship wise, career wise. You've been through it all, and it's such a cool journey. And that's why and you were with Mark, I'm like, I want to do it again. I'm like, but he's like, well, and me and him were like, but what will we talk about? I'm like, don't worry, the conversation will flow with people that you feel genuine connection with, and an hour and a half or 2 hours, it will go by. I'm telling you. And that's why we wanted to do this talking with you.
Thank you.
And then and thank you for coming back on the podcast again, man. It's great. And thank you for setting it up. But other than that, you want to touch up anything else that you feel like that you might have missed out on? Is there something that you want to talk about, Sanjay, that I feel like,
no, dude, you guys covered a lot. And we got deep into a few things too. So I appreciate that.
But do you feel like on other podcasts, compared to other talks or even podcasts, is there certain things that you would want to talk about more, or bring light to more topics that you feel like don't get talked about enough?
I mean, I have my hobby horses of things I talk about that, that realize that most decisions you make are going to be wrong, right? 95% of what you do is going to be wrong. And don't beat yourself up over it, because the 5% that are right, that work, they'll stay, and you'll stack them together and make an amazing life, right? But you can't be afraid of making those bad decisions or bad experiments or right? So
so this is gonna be a bit of a serious. So you actually asked you the previous class, because we did at the end is do you find that you're satisfied, that you're happy, like you're fully happy, you're satisfied?
No, I am. There was, so earlier in my life there was this phenomenon I discovered. If I talked to somebody, I said, "Are you happy?" Yeah, I'm happy. Are you really happy? It's like, oh no, no, dude. I don't want to do the hashtag blessed thing on Instagram, but I've got a wife I love. I've got 3 kids, 2 dogs, a beautiful house. I have businesses. I'm just surrounded by great people and love my life. I'm not striving for anything, right? I just want to enjoy this. I get a little misty eyed sometimes when I think I only have 30 years left, right? I'm hoping this is a simulation that we're living in. That way, it's going to end, and we're gonna just go on to the next simulation.
No, that's perfectly put. I think people out there that can take away one thing from this podcast is surround yourself with an environment that enables you to grow. A lot of the time we're in environments that doesn't, able to grow. Everything's within our control. I think Sanjay's lifestyle, his life story is a perfect example of there's no such thing as timeline on what is happiness. At 20s, 30s, 40s, there's not an X amount of money you gotta make at a certain age. There's not an X amount of happiness you to attain at a certain age. Life is about challenge and obstacles, and how you tackle those is testament to what your life is gonna be. And on that note, Sanjay, thank you. And right on time, I get your phone call. Looks like the podcast is good. Don't talk no more. So thank you, Sanjay, again, having us at this beautiful restaurant, and thank you, Chris, for setting it up. And man, hopefully we get to have more, maybe events set up with you in future. You never know what comes about, but man, thank you so much for coming on, and it was a pleasure.
All right.
On that note, take care, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See you.
Peace.